Endgame. Will Tony Stark survive? One of the biggest questions we're getting is, will Tony actually make it at the end of the film? Well, I don't know. But at the end of this video, you might get a little idea of what could happen. So, in Infinity War, basically what we do know is that Tony Stark and Doctor Strange made a deal. If Tony Stark loses the battle or loses his life because of the Battle of Thanos, Doctor Strange will have to give away the Time Stone. But if Thanos loses, then the Time Stone is theirs, and all the Infinity Stones belong to the Avengers and back to what they used to be. But what happens after this? Unfortunately, Tony Stark fails. Tony Stark gets stabbed by Thanos. But basically, when Doctor Strange gives away the emerald, it's basically like giving away the emerald for the most important thing, your friend's life. He had no other way of doing it, just that only way. So now Tony Stark and Nebula are the only two Marvel characters that are stuck in the planet themselves. Tony Stark isn't alone. But now what's going to have to happen is that eventually Tony Stark and Nebula are going to have to find their own ways out of it. Which means that either Tony Stark might have to use his spacecraft or Nebula might have to fly away herself and leave Tony behind. But at the trailer we can actually see how Nebula gets off the planet herself, but what happens to Tony Stark? Basically, is the question we all keep asking. Because Tony Stark, he ends up in the spacecraft, but what happens to Nebula? Well, maybe she makes the decision that she has to fly on her own. In the Endgame trailer, we can see how Tony Stark sends a message to his future fiancée and wife, telling her that he's probably not going to make it. He ran out of water 6 days ago. He probably ran out of communications with anyone else, and most importantly, tomorrow morning he could run out of oxygen levels. He will drift off into space and he will dream about her. So basically, these quotes mean something. He's probably not going to make it or he will, but there's a 70-60% chance that with all this negativity he's trying to say to her, he's probably not going to make it. But don't give up, because at the end, he actually could. At the Endgame trailer, all the heroes are preparing for the final battle with Thanos. But one of the Avengers mentions how Thanos has won. He promised that he will take away 50% of the population by snapping his fingers to bring back the 50% he wanted of his own war. And now that he did it all, the Avengers are going to get this man back. For sure, they're going to return all those Infinity Stones to the way they used to be. They're going to get rid of the gauntlet and find out a way how to eliminate Thanos from existence. But how they're going to do it is basically pretty much strong. But this is actually going to be a challenge because now only one person has a basic plan. Now Captain America has the plan to actually reverse time, and he's actually hoping that if it works good, but it turns out that Tony Stark does actually make it to the planet himself, but now he's going to have to find the others. But how did Ant-Man get out of the chamber himself? Nobody knows how. The same way with Tony Stark. Nobody knows how he got out of the planet and hopped on an aircraft. Nobody knows the answer to that unless we see the movie ourselves. But all we do know is that both of these characters do make it out alive. So now that they're alive, at the end of the trailer, the final trailer that just came out, we are ready to hear this response. Thank you so much for watching this video and hearing this talk about Endgame. Tony Stark is one of the amazing Marvel characters of the MCU, and we hate to see him go away. And Downey is probably going to step down on his position on Iron Man once Endgame comes to an end, but we'll stay tuned for that as well. But make sure that you watch the Avengers Endgame, which is going to be on theaters on April the 29th, on Friday. Also, be sure to subscribe and like this video and stay tuned for more Disney videos. Peace out.